The College Basketball Experience American Conference, a.k.a. the AAC 24-25 season preview edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Use our sign-up code TCESGPN to get a 50% deposit up to $1,000. That is the Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and NFL with Rhythm today. Get your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. Welcome, everybody, into the College Basketball Experience, AAC style. You know, we were talking pre-show. This league has turned into quite the shit show, to be honest, with all the conference expansion. In a good way, the shit show. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of not regional teams in this league, a lot of teams that were in one league, then they were in the other. Now they're all in here, and I guess you could call it the Big 13. We got a Big 10, we got a Big 12. I guess this is the Big 13. But we're going to preview it. We're going to rank them 1 through 13, give out our sleeper, give out our bus, give out our conference champion, and who we think will get to March Madness. But first, I am Moneyline Mac, a.k.a. the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin. Also known as Mac tonight over here at the College Experience. Joining me to talk some AAC, you guys know him as the window banging, drywall hanging, LeBaron driving, cocktail napkin having, Noah Bieniek, a.k.a. Noah B77. What's up, man?
Almost forgot. What's going on, Mac? The AAC is really interesting this year. Don't know what to make of it. It's going to be an older, more experienced league than others across the non-power lineup. I don't know if the AAC fans would consider or really like me if I said it was a mid-major league, but last year they had 2 representatives in the NCAA tournament, and neither one of them won the regular season. We'll talk about the entire situation with South Florida when we get to our individual team previews alphabetically. Florida Atlantic was an 8 seed in the NCAA tournament last year. They lost to Northwestern in round 1. And then UAB won the AAC tournament and then lost by 4 to San Diego State in round 1 of the NCAA tournament. Mac, do you think that the AAC gets 2 bids once again this year before we preview a lot of these teams?
No. Straight out, I probably don't think so. I think Memphis is such a hard team to handicap. We're going to talk about them here in a little bit. But I think maybe UAB is the best team, arguably. But we'll break each team down. But I ultimately think this is a 1-bid league. But hey, I know I was on UAB last year to win the conference. My guy Andy Kennedy getting it done the year after the year. He had all the hype and jelly the year before. Great tournament run there in the AAC tournament.
And believe us, Crutch, he says the guys are killing me going live during the 8th inning of the World Series. Max got it on in the background. Closet Yankees fan.
I got a future on the Yankees. Noah's got a future on the Dodgers. It looks like Noah's going to win and I'm going to lose. Fucking Yankees.
Hey, why you got to do that? We're still 6 outs away, or whatever we are right now.
Oh, they're not winning 6 in LA. They got Aaron Boone.
6 outs away. 6 outs away from back-to-back preseason World Series championship picks. That would be incredible. But
hey, I was thinking today, I said it would be fitting if the Yankees were like the second team to come back from 3-0 because they were the one that blew it against Dave Roberts, who stole the base in 2004. I was like, maybe this could come full circle, but The Dodgers are pretty fucking good.
Yes, they are. You wanna jump into a I don't know if they're pretty fucking good, but pretty good is like reasonably good. A league here in AAC.
Solid league. I think there's
Reasonably good.
There's a lot of good teams. Good teams. I don't think that they're like there's no
You know
FAU
what?
this year.
You know what my prediction is, and maybe I should take back my one bid league prediction, but they're going to be really good in the non-conference because they're a lot of experienced squads.
Yeah, I could see it. And they do have some good coaches in this league. Some may argue that the guy that has the best team is not a good coach, but let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's go in alphabetical order here. We're going to begin in Charlotte, North Carolina, the Fighting Clits, aka the 49ers. Of Charlotte last year, they're 19-12 overall, 13-5 in conference. That was good for third in the American in the AAC last year, Mac. They do lose Lucai Patterson, who put up 14.5 points per game, 3.5 boards, 2.5 assists, 1 steal per game. Also, Jackson Threadgill hit the portal, 26.5 minutes last season. Igor Milicic Jr., after playing 32 minutes, 13 points, 8.5 rebounds per game, 1 block per game, portaled. Deshaun Jackson, 26.5 minutes last season, 11.5 points, 6 boards, 1.5 assists, hit the transfer portal alongside Sterling Young, Dalen Berry, and Yaroslav Nyagu. Coming in from the transfer portal, Kylan Blackman from Coastal Carolina played 33 minutes there last year. He's a 6'3 guard, redshirt senior this season. Last year, he averaged 11.5 points, 3 boards, 1.5 assists, over a steal per game, shot at 36% from deep. Jeremiah Oden is a 6'9 redshirt senior coming in from DePaul, where he played 28 minutes last season per game, 7.5 points and 3 rebounds, shot at 31.5% from 3. Giancarlo Rosado from in-conference Florida Atlantic. This is an interesting piece because, FAU played really deep. He didn't play a whole lot every game, but he saw the floor every single game. 12.5 minutes per game last season, 6'8 senior 5-man who put up 5 points per game, 3 boards. Like I said, in 12.5 minutes, he was really productive, 52.5% from the field. From UL Monroe, a graduate senior, Nika Mechkavrishvili. I definitely screwed up that last name. I gave him my best try. 6'8 grad senior forward, 28.5 minutes last season, 12.5 points, 6 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal per game. And then coming in from Florida, he didn't play last season, but Alexander Schmezik, also another name that I did not drill, but he didn't play last season for Florida. He only played 14 games for the Gators his freshman season. He's got 3 more years of eligibility for Charlotte. They do bring back 4 guys that played, none more than Nick Graves, who played 30 minutes a game last season, a 6'3 junior guard, who's probably going to man the one this season. 10.5 points, 3 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal per game last year, shot at 33% from deep, 45.5% from the field. And he also comes back alongside Isaiah Folks, who played 19.5 minutes, Robert Braswell IV, who's a grad senior, 6'7 forward, played 16.5 minutes, and Dean Reiber, who played 15.5 minutes. Mac, your thoughts on the Fighting Clits this season?
So Aaron Fern, he was the interim, and then they did a great job taking over for Sanchez, who went over to Virginia. Ultimately, now has replaced Tony Bennett. 19-12 in his first year, 13-15. Won a bunch of close games last year. They do lose a lot, so I think a little bit of a regression here in 24-25 is set for Charlotte here. Maybe the magic was last year with that inaugural year of having the interim coach, but I like overall that they're old. I think that they developed an identity under Fern, but I do worry about just the lack of returning production on this team. I have them, I don't know, so it's somewhere in the middle of the pack in this league. Maybe
the middle of the pack is gigantic in this league in a sense. From on Ken Palm's projection from 4th place to 10th place, 3 games separates it. So that's kind of how I think the season's going to go kind of in the same ballpark. I think Charlotte takes a step back into that big group,
Clump.
and however they file out around each other, I wouldn't be surprised if Charlotte finishes 9th. I wouldn't be surprised if they finish 4th. But that's the range that I have them in this year.
Yep, I'm with you. Yeah, and Clark makes a good point. Maybe the lack of depth in the front court could do this team in.
Yeah, I mean, they've got some bigs on this roster, but
it's a middle of the pack roster. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. East Carolina, the Pirates. Mac, do you believe? Do you believe?
Some games, other games not.
In the honest. Pirates? In the spirit of ECU?
Yeah, I don't know. I know I like Schwartz. I think he's overall done a good job. I know Colby can be overly emotional with every loss.
May the Schwartz be with you.
They've been all right at home. This is a big year though. Year 3. They've kind of been hovering around that 8th, 9th place. 7 and 11.
They were 9th. So,
yeah, can they make that jump here?
I don't know. They hit the portal pretty hard. I will say they lost Brandon Johnson last year. He played 34.5 minutes per game, 14 points, 8.5 boards, 1.5 assists, 1.5 steals per game, shot 36.5% from deep. He was kind of a do-it-all guy at the 4 for them last year. Ezra Azar and Bobby Pettiford are 2 big losses as well. Pettiford, he kind of was the point guard for them last season. And I think he's off to High Point, and Ezra Azar transfers out after playing 26 minutes last season, 11.5 points, 4.5 boards. Honestly, a lot of people transfer out. Quentin DeBunje, Logan Bourgeois, Valentino Pinedo, Jaden Walker, who played 24 minutes last season, Takori Faison, Caleb LeCount, and Ben Bayala all hit the transfer portal. Coming in from the transfer portal, you have Jordan Riley, who was involved in the Temple fiasco. This is going to be one of Colby's favorite players this season because he likes to gamble. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not putting words into his past, but involved on the team 100%, who was involved in a gambling scandal last year. A 6'4" senior guard who played 29 minutes last season, 12 points per game, 6 boards, over an assist, over a steal per game. Also, CJ Walker comes in from UCF. He's a graduate senior, 6'8" forward who played 22.5 minutes, 8 points per game, 4.5 boards, shot at 31% from 3. They bring in the 14th ranked junior college recruit via JUCOrecruiting.com. 15.5 points per game, 10.5 rebounds per game, 7 assists per game at Indiana River State. Jashane Woodard. And then Jan Farrell comes in from St. Bonaventure. He played 27 minutes last season, 7.5 points, 5.5 rebounds per game, shot at 33.5% from deep. And then Julian Sumaro comes in from Gardner Webb, 28.5 minutes per game, 12.5 points per game, 2.5 assists, shot at 36% from 3. He's a 5'10" senior point guard, gives him some depth in the backcourt. RJ Felton's brother, LaDante Felton, is a highly regarded recruit coming in this season. And they also have from Indian Hills Junior College, Travion LeBeau, who put up 13 points per game, 9.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists. The 2 returnees are RJ Felton, who played 34.5 minutes last season, 17.5 points, 6 rebounds, 1.5 assists, almost 2 steals per game, shot at 35.5% from beyond the perimeter. And then Cam Hayes, he's going to man the point this season, 6'3" senior guard, played 25 minutes last season, 7.5 points per game, 2 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal. Mac, East Carolina, my note here was they had a top 5 defense in the AAC last season, but it wasn't that great in year 1 under Schwartz. So should we chalk that great defense up last year to Mark Adams on staff as the defensive specialist, who's now over there at Ole Miss? How good do we expect ECU to be this season?
Potentially, but also Schwartz is a Rick Barnes guy, so they should be good defensively year in and year out. I mean, that's what Rick Barnes teams have been at Tennessee and Texas. So I think I'm torn on this team. I think you throw them in the clunk of right in the middle of the pack. This is definitely that. I like some of the experience that they have, led by Felton. But it's just about, and this can be a common theme with a lot of these teams in this league. How can they mesh these transfer portal pieces? Because there's a lot of transfer portal pieces, a lot of older guys that are on their second, third, fourth school. And we'll see how Schwartz does in year 3 with all these pieces. But I got him in the middle of the pack based off of what they bring back and what they've done so far in 2 years at ECU.
I think they're in that glob in the middle of the AAC again.
They're in the glob. They're right in the middle of that thing.
It's a term of endearment when we talk about the AAC, the glob. It's about 6 teams that'll fall in the middle from 4 to 9 in the standings. Before we move on with the rest of the teams in alphabetical order here in the AAC preview, we're going to ask you guys to just take a quick 20 seconds, 30 seconds out of your day. Go leave us a like, rating, review, subscribe, wherever you're listening to this thing on podcast platforms, specifically on Spotify. Give us a 5-star rating because it helps us out so much on their platforms, pushing us out there. And we're looking to really hit that algorithm hard for opening night. Where we got over 100 games to preview. We're picking every game against the spread and on the money line. Myself, Mac, and Colby. When he lands in North Carolina and gets fully bunkered in for the college basketball season, moving his entire family from California to North Carolina. And you can also hit subscribe here on YouTube because we're going for 12K before opening night, opening tip. We're 30 subscribers away. So go over there 13. And help us out because 13
away.
Really? Wow.
They're listening.
Good stuff.
They're listening to you, Noah. They're listening. Subscribe,
Thank you. So only you guys can help us prevent corporate gambling from taking over. One company that does support us though is Underdog Fantasy, and they've got a great deal for you guys. And also one of the biggest menus in all of sports. Fantasy, NFL, college football, MLB, MMA, NBA, NHL, NASCAR, and college basketball when the season tips off right around the weekend here. Boosttober is upon us, which means you're getting a spooky amount of profit boosts and so much more. And you can now use specials and boosts on all flexed entries. Go to sign up today with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. And we are back on the college basketball experience, Mac. We're previewing all of the AAC, the American Athletic Conference basketball teams in alphabetical order. The next team up for us is the Florida Atlantic Owls. Last year, they were 25-9 overall, 14-4 in conference. They finished second in the AAC. Dusty May is now the head coach of my beloved Michigan Wolverines. Thank you very much, FAU. And John Jacobs, the former offensive specialist mastermind over there for Scott Drew's Baylor Bears. He is the new head man at FAU. His first few days on the job at the old folks home, Mac, as Colby's beloved term of endearment for Boca Raton. His first few days were really interesting because the Florida Atlantic roster was intact. They all met Jacobs. Then he did a press conference in front of the local media touting that he was able to keep everybody on campus. And then the next time that he went to meet with the team, there was no team, as I'm quoting the great John Calipari there. Because Florida Atlantic, this is basically an entire new roster that I'm working on pulling up here. But yeah, that was just an absolutely hilarious scene in front of all local media. They all gave him a standing ovation that he kept the thing together. And the only returnee is Trey Carroll, who played 8 minutes last season. Everybody else is gone. It's so entertaining. Leland Walker, coming in from Eastern Kentucky, is going to be the point guard here. He averaged 4 assists per game in 28.5 minutes. He's a 6'1 junior, 15.5 points per game, 2.5 rebounds, shot at 34% from deep. Kai Tandy, transfers in from Jacksonville State, shot at 39% from three-point range. He played 31.5 minutes. This year, he's going to be a 6'2" grad senior guard, 18 points per game last season. Ken Evans, a 6'5" redshirt senior, comes in from Jackson State, shot the three ball 39%, 19 points per game, 5.5 boards, 3 assists, over a steal per game. Baba Miller is probably going to be a really interesting piece here for FAU. Comes in from Florida State, didn't quite light it up for the Seminoles last season, played 25 minutes. He's a 6'11" junior forward who, averaged 7.5 points, 5 boards, 1.5 assists in the AAC, but taking a slight step down in competition. I think this guy's really going to be able to translate quite well. They bring in Matas Vokitaitis coming in from Lithuania. He's a 7-footer. Nicolo Moretti comes in from Illinois. Played 6 minutes last season. He's a 6'1" redshirt sophomore guard. Max Langenfeld comes in from Germany. He's another sophomore. And then Caleb Glenn is a 6'6" sophomore coming in from Louisville. Played 15 minutes last season for the Cardinals. Mac, your thoughts on FAU? I think the talent is there. And Jacobs had really good offenses at Baylor. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so it's a matter if you believe in Jacobs, and I think if you just look at Scott Drew's coaching tree, there's every reason to do so. Jerome Tang, translated over at K-State, coming over. Grant McCaslin at Texas Tech. Paul Mills went over to Oral Roberts. Coach Driscoll down at North Florida. So you can go coach by coach. Everybody that's left the Scott Drew tree has been really good. I think Jacobs will do a good job. I think FAU will be better than people think, just because everybody will see 3% returning production. But I think Jacobs will hit the ground running. I think the level of talent, and I think they build off of the momentum that Dusty May laid out there. So I think they contend for a top 5 spot here in the AAC.
That's about where I have them too.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more, willing to take the adventure on Florida Atlantic because of the year one John Jacobs. You don't really know what you're going to get, but I think this roster offensively is really talented. They've got 2 really, big guys in the front court. It's tough for me to kind of predict how well they're going to play defensively, but I think this is going to be a team that wins a lot of races to 80 points.
I could see that. That's kind of what I have in mind with what I looked at with Jacobs. I mean, he was an offensive guy for Scott Drew, so I think just their ball screens that they're probably going to run, I think it favors the guards that they brought in. So I like some of the guards playing in space on this roster. So we'll see how it translates. Do they buy in from day one? Do they adopt to the new roles? But I think top 5.
All right. Let's talk about another team that expects to be in the top 5.
Oh, nobody has an opinion on this team.
The Memphis Tigers. Last year they were 22-10 overall, 11-7 in the AAC, which was good for tied for 5th. I don't think that's quite the expectation every single year. Penny Hardaway basically turned over the entire Memphis roster and coaching staff. Mac, how would you describe the situation in FedEx World right now?
Not well. They do have the best roster if you want my 2 cents on that, but it's never good when you turn over your coaching staff on Labor Day weekend. Usually you should have probably done that in April if that was the direction you were going to go. So
that's a really good point.
I would say tension, a lot of tension there in Memphis headed into what year is this for Penny? Year 6?
6.
Yeah. And it's been underwhelming. I mean, he's only had 1 NCAA tournament win. That's less than Josh Pastner. They ran Tubby Smith out. I mean, after 2 years to bring back one of their own. I know they've been kind of around that 20 win mark, but is that what the expectation at Memphis is? They were supposed to run this league once Houston left in. They did not do that last year.
No, they did not. It was quite disappointing. And, Memphis, in a way, You know what? Let's just get to the roster. Transfer portal roster. The only guy coming back from last year's team is Nicholas Jourdain, a 6'9" senior forward who played 22 minutes last season, 6.5 points, 4 boards, shot at 40.5% from three, 58.5% from the field. Tyrese Hunter transfers in from Texas, a 6-foot senior point guard, 32 minutes last season, 11 points per game for the Longhorns, 3 boards, 4 assists, over a steal per game, shot at 45% from the field, 34.5% from three. PJ Haggerty's the name to watch for me. Comes in from Tulsa. He's been lighting it up in the scrimmages so far this season. 49% from the field last season, 33.5 minutes per game for the Golden Hurricanes last season. He's a 6'3" redshirt sophomore. Put up 21 points per game, 5.5 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals per contest in the AAC last year. Same conference. I think that should translate pretty well into conference play this season, alongside Colby Rogers, who's a 6'4" redshirt senior. 35 minutes per game last season, 16.5 points per game, 3.5 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal last season, shot at 41% from three. I think those three are really good pieces in the backcourt. Outside of that, I question the depth. At the 5 spot, they're going to rotate in between Musa Cisse, for more of the defensive prowess. He's a really good defender. And then Dane Danger doesn't play any defense, but he's got really good post moves. So, Cisse is a 7-footer. Danger's a 6'9" redshirt senior. Both of these guys in their 5th year of college basketball. I have some question marks. Cisse, 4.5 points per game, 4.5 boards, and 17.5 minutes for Ole Miss last season. And Dane was on and off the floor for Illinois. Just provides an offensive spark. And that's what I think he could give Memphis if he doesn't cause any locker room issues, which I already hear he is. Baraka Okoji comes in from George Mason, played 24.5 minutes for the Patriots last season. Tyreek Smith transfers in from SMU, another in-conference transfer who played in the AAC last season. He's a 6'8" redshirt 5th-year senior, 19 minutes a game last season, 8 points, 5.5 rebounds. And then PJ Carter, another AAC transfer from UTSA, played 20 minutes per game last season, 9.5 points, 2.5 rebounds. Mac, we already did a TCE short, about 35 minutes, just basically previewing this team and then talking about their schedule. And both of us think there's dumpster fire potential here. Both of us think that the ceiling's around 8 losses. Specifically in conference, what do you think they will do this season?
I think they'll be in the top 5, just based off purely off
That's
talent.
bold.
I mean, I think their floor is 5th still. With the new look AAC, their ceiling clearly is winning the league. If everybody buys in somehow, then they win the league. But they're just such a shit show. That's what Memphis is. I think I said tension with their program. Shit show is the right term for this program. I don't know. I think they're going to do just fine in the non-con because they'll be stepping up to the big boys and they'll play with the chip on their shoulder, back against the wall. But then when they're supposed to beat Rice and UTSA and Tulane, they'll probably lay an egg. That's just what they've done under Penny. So I'll have them in my top 5 somewhere. I don't know exactly. I won't pick them to win it because I just don't trust them. But I also won't have them below 5th just purely off talent. I think that's fair, right?
Yeah, they're the most talented roster on paper.
But what does that mean?
We've seen year in, year out that it doesn't translate to victories. 3 straight seasons, Penny Hardaway has had the 2nd best offense in the American Athletic Conference. 2 of those seasons, Houston finished above them, and last year, Dusty May's returning Final Four team finished number 1. If this so-called Memphis conference, if this is so-called Memphis's conference, will the Tigers finish with the best offense in the league this year? They could. Or could they have a top 5 defense, which they have not had in the last 2 seasons? I don't think so. I don't see it defensively with the squad this year. I think it's more of a 5th place season once again than I think it's a 1st place season. I think it'll land somewhere in between, like Mac's talking about. And I agree with Mac. They're not my pick to win the AAC this season. Anything else you want to hit on Memphis before we move on?
I think you're crazy if you picked them to, and I know we just said they're the best in talent, but like, how can you just trust that culture? And you have to be the best team for a 18 game gauntlet, not a one game. You got to win that on that day.
Well, they're not even guaranteed to win that.
True.
Last year, then they who'd they lose to last year? That was like
Rice.
Dog shit.
Rice. Yeah, they're too inconsistent to win the regular season, in my opinion. In your opinion,
it's like it's not a talent issue. It's the drive. Like they don't show up every single day. 100%.
Culture issue.
The culture just sums it all up. Just one word. Before we move on with the rest of the team previews here in the AAC. SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. You can build your own model or copy one of the top-performing ones from the leaderboard, and Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop and also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. Rhythm went 24-3 in their NBA props night 1 of the season. You can claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm because that college basketball model is right around the corner. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And the college basketball experience is also brought to you by BetUS, the best in the business. They've been around for more than 30 years, and you can easily deposit using cryptocurrency and get lightning fast payouts. BetUS is live with their Trick or Treat on Horror Street promotion. From now until Halloween, BetUS is offering daily promos and a raffle entry to win a sports or casino prize pack that they will give away on October 31st. And you can enter multiple times, plus every $200 deposit gets you one entry. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. Promo code SGPN so they know we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook.
Congrats to your
and we are
Dodgers.
home free.
They just clinched.
They won?
Yeah, Dodgers just won the World Series. So congrats on back-to-back for you on your predictions.
I am so sorry, my friend. You can put your Yankees pinstripes into the closet for the next 7 months.
Go Nats. To the Nats. Yanks for my postseason with my future. But yeah, let's go.
Oh, that's a nice rush. I can't wait to tout it on Twitter after this. Because I'm not even on the MLB podcast to be able to share. What a season. Where do we pick up from? So next up, North Texas, Mac. We're home free here on the AAC basketball preview. The North Texas Mean Green are next up for us, alphabetically. They were 19-15 overall last season, 10-8 in conference, good for 7th in the American. Jason Edwards hitting the portal after a 19-point-per-game campaign alongside 9 other guys that hit the transfer portal is kind of a gigantic blow. North Texas has 3 returnees here, but for the most part, this is a transfer portal team as well. They returned 2 guys that played an impact in last year's team. Rondell Walker played 25 minutes last season. He's a 6'5" senior wing. 4 points, 4.5 rebounds per game. Mule Sissoko is a 6'9" redshirt senior, played 16 minutes last season, 3 points, 4.5 rebounds per game. Matthew Stone is a 6'4" senior, 14.5 minutes from last season. But outside of that, it's a transfer portal squad. Jasper Floyd, who comes in from Fairfield, he shot at 32.5% from 3, 9.5 points per game, 6 boards, 4 assists, 2.5 steals per game. He kind of stuffs the stat sheet in any way possible. Aiton Wright transfers in from Drake after a great year last year for the Bulldogs. 31 minutes a game. He's a 6'1" senior this season. 14 points per game, 2.5 rebounds, 2 assists, over a steal per game. Shot at 40.5% from 3, 46% from the field for Drake last season. Jonathan Massey transfers in from Longwood after an 11.5 point per game, 5 board, 2 assists, over a steal per game campaign, shot at 34.5% from 3-point range in 25 minutes for the Fighting Lancers. And then Latrell Giselle transfers in from Stephen F. Austin, 13 points per game last season, 2.5 assists, shot at 37.5% from deep. He's a 6'1 senior guard. Grant Newell is 6'9 senior forward from California. Played 21.5 minutes for the Bears last season, 5.5 points per game, 3.5 boards. Brennan Lorient transfers in from FAU, only played 8.5 minutes for the Owls last season. And Brock Weiss redshirted at Creighton his freshman year. He transfers in. He's a 6'10 forward. Pretty interesting, but I don't know how much of an impact he's going to make. Mac, this team is really, really old. They've got like 8 seniors in probably what they could deem as their rotation here. What are your thoughts on the Mean Green?
I thought they were better than their record last year. I know they finished, well, they still finished 10-8 with the winning record in league play, but they really overachieved with McCaslin over like the last 3-4 years. So a little bit of regression last year. I love Ross Hodge. I think he's a really good coach. He was great at Paris Junior College. He was great at Midland. I mean, you know me, man. I love the guys that have grinded it out the JUCO level for 5-6 years. And then he was with McCaslin every step of the way building that program. I think they're a contender this year. I can blindly trust Hodge to blend these new pieces in because the JUCO guys they're used to building a new roster year in and year out. I think they have a leg up on some of these traditional college basketball guys. I also think that they're going to get back to being really good defensively this year. And I just think that like with what we just talked about with Memphis, not having an identity, not having a culture, North Texas is the opposite. We know what we're getting out of them. They're going to play hard. They're going to rebound. They're going to defend. They're going to make you earn it. That translates over an 18-game slate. I got them and another team that we'll talk about later, 1-2 in my league.
All righty. I like that take. The defense is going to be there. I know you mentioned a lot of this stuff already, but North Texas had the second best defense in the conference last season in year one under Hodge. In the Mean Green, they do lose a lot, but this program has been tremendous defensively for years in the Conference USA, and then you saw it in year one translate in the American last year. So I think it's going to stick to. I labeled them more of a top half team. I don't know if I correctly maybe read through the or analyzed the roster, and you have them contender. I tip my cap on the take. Can't wait till we get to our rankings at the end of the show. Next up for us is the Rice Owls. Rough year last year. 11-21 overall, 5-13 in conference. There was a 5-way tie for last, tied for 9th in the American last year. Rice was one. Rob Lanier is the new head coach at Rice now. He comes in, after he kind of began the wild coaching carousel dominoes that started with him getting canned at SMU, included some other just incredible coaching changes along the way, like Musselman at USC, then John Calipari at Arkansas, Mark Pope at Kentucky, and then it ended with Kevin Young at BYU. Just incredible. And then what do you expect? It's an entire transfer portal roster for Rice. So I won't mention everybody that left because literally everybody did return, or everybody left besides Alem Hosanovic, who played 26.5 minutes last season, averaged 8 points per game, 40% shooter from 3. He's a 6'4 grad senior guard. From the portal, a couple of guys from SMU. Jalen Smith, a 6'4 senior guard, played 21.5 minutes last season, 6 points per game, 2 rebounds, 2 assists per game, shot at 38% from 3. Also, a guy that didn't play last season, he redshirted, Denver England. So he's a 6'1 junior guard. Also, Rob Lanier's son, Emery, transfers in. He's a 6'3 grad senior. Trey Broadnax transfers in from USC Upstate. 14 points per game, 4 boards, 3.5 assists, 1 steal per game, 33.5 3-point shooter, 46.5% shooter from the field. He's pretty efficient when it comes to shooting the ball. He's probably going to, come close to leading this team in scoring once again this season, like he did at Upstate last season. I think his game might be able to translate. Kellen Amos is a 6'7" grad senior, played 31.5 minutes last season, 12 points per game, 5 boards, 2.5 assists. Did a little bit of everything with 1 steal, 1 block per game. And then 6'10" junior forward Caden Powell, 5.5 points, 4.5 boards last season from Wyoming. By the way, Kellen Amos comes in from Central Connecticut State. Jimmy Oladikan comes in from San Diego. He played 16.5 minutes last season for the Toreros. Jacob Dar transfers in from D2 Emory and Henry. 25 minutes per game, 15.5 points per game, 6 rebounds per game. And then Trey Patterson didn't play last season, but he transfers in from Villanova. Mac, Rice was not good last year. Also, Rob Lanier doesn't even change conferences. He just goes from SMU's sideline in Dallas to Rice's sideline in Houston. How do you kind of project this roster to go this season?
Dude, that's a pretty good hire by them, in my opinion. I thought he did a good job at SMU. I think he got fucked, to be honest. Like, the fact that they fired him because they were going to the ACC, he doubled their win total in 2 years. I mean, they played hard. I think that they're going to struggle. They're definitely in the bottom of this league. Kind of, you look at what he did SMU first year, 10-22. I kind of think of the same season here with just all these new faces. But long term, man, I don't think Rice could have done better with this hire.
No, I don't. How do you think they're going to be this year? Because I agree with you. Long term, Rice kind of lucked into a good hire.
Yeah. No, I think they're going to be like 10-20
this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, immediately this season. I don't think it's too great.
They're going to suck this year. I mean, they're going to be down, but like I don't know. They can be pesky. I think they can be frisky come conference tourney time, but it's going to take. I think it's going to take a little bit to get this culture flipped. They got a lot of they got a lot of issues and a lot of cleaning up with that roster and culture. They've been bad for a while.
Yeah. The next team that we're going to talk about is a little bit heavy. The South Florida Bulls. Unfortunately, I don't know if anybody caught the news. Hopefully you did, if you're listening to this show. But within the last week, their head coach, Amir Abdur-Rahim, unfortunately passed away. Last year, they were 25-8 overall, 16-2 in the American. They finished in first place in the regular season, won the regular season conference championship. They had the number 1 defense in the league, a top 5 offense in the AAC, and due to very unfortunate circumstances, he passed away due to complications in surgery. Ben Fletcher has been named the interim head coach at USF. The college experience in SGPN, we extend our thoughts and prayers with Amir Abdur-Rahim's loved ones, the Bulls basketball team, and the South Florida athletic program. We're going to attempt to preview the team this season, but I'm sure you can understand, like, I have no idea what kind of impact this makes on a team. Mac, I don't know, like, I hope you were never in this position, but what the hell do you think is going through this basketball program's heads 1 week until the season begins?
Boy, man. That's a great question. I mean, like you said, this could go from a X's and O's and program, like playing game in and game out, 2 ways. Like they could be devastated and just completely all the air taken out of the balloon, and rightfully so. They have every right to not play well this year. But at the same time, with the way Amir Abdur-Rahim carried himself and recruited guys, I kind of think that they'll play for him. And and his staff around him. I think he's had guys around him at Kennesaw and then the 1 year at USF. It's just crazy, man. Like just looking back on it and what he was able to do in just 1 year at USF, flip that into those crowds that we saw. I mean, that FAU Sunday home game where they packed that thing in. It was a neon out, and nobody ever went to the USF games. Nobody.
He called his shot too. Like he said that they would win a conference title, and he did it in year one. It's incredible.
And he did it at Kennesaw. Kennesaw won like 3 games when he took over, and then he beat Liberty in the final.
They won 1 game.
Xavier. They beat Xavier. Oh, I mean, they were right there to beat Xavier in the NCAA tournament, and then he goes to USF, and he was going to be a stud, or he already was a stud, and he was just going to go on to bigger and better things wherever he went next after USF. Or who knows what he could have done with USF. So they definitely still are. I mean, they're still a blue collar program, just with their reflection of their head coach. I know he's not physically with them anymore, but he's still spiritually with them. I think they're going to have a good year. I think they're going to play their asses off for him. I think that this is I know we call it the tragic magic spot. I think it's a tragic magic season. I think that that's not their program just to lay down and feel sorry for themselves, even though they have every right to, losing their head coach. And obviously that community is just devastated in his family. And you mentioned it. We sent our thoughts and prayers, and man, it was terrible. I mean, everybody I talked to in the coaching industry over the last week had nothing but great things to say about the guy. And yeah, he will be missed. He definitely will be missed.
Tyson Spalding's agreeing with you, saying it's going to be a tragic magic season too. I know they won the league.
Yeah,
they won the league last year, and they returned 3 players that played 22 minutes last season. Kobe Knox, 8.5 points, 3.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists per game. Also, their 5'10" point guard Jaden Reed, who averaged 7 points per game, 3 assists, 47.5% shooter from deep, but his number wasn't called too much. And then Brandon Stroud, a 6'6" grad senior wing who averaged 5 and 6 last season. And they bring in 2 high major transfers in Deontay Green, a 6'9" junior forward from Florida State who only played 12 minutes last season. Jameel Reynolds comes in from Cincinnati who only played 14 minutes last season. Their front court was kind of clogged. It was really good last season. And then Quincy Ademokoya, was formerly with Amir Abdur-Rahim at Kennesaw State. He's a 6'6" grad senior, played 24.5 minutes per game last season for the Owls. He wanted to graduate with Kennesaw State, and then he followed coach to play 1 more year of college basketball with them. 10 points per game, 4 rebounds, shot at 35.5% from 3 last season. He's going to be important off the bench, but outside of that, I question a little bit of depth if we're actually, talking about this team for real. They have a freshman who's a 3-star coming in CJ Brown that they believe in. Jimmy Williams comes in from Wallace State Junior College, who put up 22.5 points per game, 8.5 rebounds, 5 assists. He could be a spark plug. Kaysen Jennings, also a graduate senior, comes in from Kennesaw State. Cameron Wright is a 3-star freshman recruit as well. But I think this team is only really 6 deep, and the depth is young and relatively inexperienced at the D1 level. So I think they're if Amir Abdur-Rahim was the head coach of this team, and I picked this team to win the regular season last year, just because I believed in him and I believed in the pieces that he brought in from Kennesaw State, because it was basically like his entire Owls team, and they went out and won the regular season. Yeah. I would have been a little bit bullish compared to expectations that should be placed upon this team. But do they perform up like quite a bit up to their a competition level, like playing for their coach? I have no idea. It's super tough to project. So for me, I have South Florida 5th in the league. I'm just going to go and say it. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a season where I would be totally understanding if it's not a good year at all. I would say like, hell yeah, if they went out and finished in the top 2, top 3 in the AAC. Anything else you want to say before we move on here?
No, just rest in peace, Coach. You'll be missed.
All right. Next up is the Temple Owls. So many fucking Owls in this conference, right?
I know. Hey, I like Temple, baby. Had Adam Fisher on the coaches tour this summer. They finished the year strong, man. They almost made it to the dance.
Well, no shit. When they weren't throwing the year, they were good.
I know. They caught that guy finally. Or I think it's a developing story. I don't even know where we're at with that story.
It's still developing. Still developing.
He's at Virginia Tech. Yeah, he's at Virginia Tech now. Or he was.
He got kicked off the team. Yeah. Temple's going to be pretty good this year, though. I think the backcourt's really good. Lynn Greer III comes in from St. Joe's. Played 30 minutes last season, 11 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 1 steal per game as well. Shot at 30.5% from 3, but like he was a high volume shooter, 45% from the field. Jamal Mashburn Jr. transfers in from New Mexico as well. 6'2" grad senior, played 29.5 minutes for the Lobos, 14 points per game, 1.5 assists per game, shot at 31.5% from 3. They returned Matteo Piccarelli, who played 23 minutes, shot at 37% from deep. All 3 of those guys are really, really efficient shooting guards. And then Steve Settle III, a 6'10" redshirt senior. He can step out and shoot you a deep ball as well. But I don't know if they'll need him to. But either way, 29.5 minutes last season, 8.5 points, 5 boards, 1.5 steals per game. Elijah Gray transfers in from Fordham, 18 minutes a game last season, 8.5 points, 3.5 rebounds. That could translate really well across like maybe 28 minutes a game. Jameel Brown from Penn State only played 10 minutes last season, so we'll see what kind of impact he can do. Shane Dezzoni comes back after playing 19.5 minutes last season. Zion Stanford played 15 minutes a game. Quante Berry played 10 minutes a game. I think that this team at the top, like in their projected starting 5, I think they can really shoot it. Outside of that, I question the depth a little bit. But, like you mentioned with Adam Fisher, he got the boys going at the end of the year when it mattered most in the conference tournament. What are your thoughts on Temple?
Well, he got them going before that. They won, 4 out of 6 down the stretch, and then they won 4 in a row. So they won 8 out of 10. But, dude, they were so frustrating because they would lose overtime games and not cover, which goes back to
it was crazy.
The whole suspicious thing. They were losing crazy game, close game after close game. And you do make a good point. Like, it was always close to the number. So I know that they're dealing with that. But I love the way that this team started formulating down the stretch. I love Fisher's track record. I love that he worked for Shrewsbury. They got it going at Penn State. He was there every step of the way, and then he worked for Jim Larinaga. So multiple stops that he's made. He's been a really good head coach, and I think, I think they're going to take a step up, man. I think they could jump into the top half here in year 2 of Fisher with all this returning production.
Yeah, I think they're going to be much better than they were last year. It's not very hard if you actually try. I think they're in the top half. I think they have a winning record this year.
Yep.
Tulane, the Green Wave, are next up for us. Ron Hunter had a really rough year last year. I was really high on them in the preseason. Sion James transfers to Duke. He put up 14 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 1.5 steals per game. He was a solid piece. Colin Holloway transfers out after 13 points, 4.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists per game. Colby King transfers out, 27.5 minutes last season, 10.5 points, 3.5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.5 steals per game. They also lose Trey Williams, who played 26 minutes a game, 8.5 points, three rebounds, 1.5 assists per game. Jalen Forbes, who played 34 minutes a game, 14 points, 4 boards, 2 assists, 1.5 steals per game. And Kevin Cross, who played 36 minutes last season, 17.5 points per game, 7.5 rebounds per game, 4.5 assists, 1.5 steals. I don't know why this team was not better. They missed their window, in my opinion. And this team is going to suck this year. They're really, 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 really young. Major roster turnover after last season. It's the most inexperienced roster in the AAC here in the preseason, according to Torvik. Rowan Brumbaugh comes in from Georgetown. Played 22 minutes last season in his first year of college basketball. 8.5 points per game, 2.5 assists, shot at 37% from 3-point range. Michael Ely comes in from Siena, 13.5 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists. Caleb Banks transfers in from Indiana, only played 10.5 minutes last season. Greg Glenn III played 9.5 minutes for Tulane last year. He's expected to start alongside Percy Daniels, the 6'9" junior forward who played 6.5 minutes last season. Outside of that, Tyler Ringgold, first year of college basketball. Cam Williams, first year of college basketball. Murray Jordan, first year of college basketball. Spencer Elliott, first year. KJ Green, first year. Stefan Sisic, first year. They're super, super young. They're going to get trampled in the AAC, where there's a lot of seniors on a lot of these rosters. A lot of these rosters are really old in the AAC. Like I said at the top of the show, they're going to be really good in the non-conference because they have so much experience coming back, whether they were transfers or staying on their relative teams. But I don't see any way that Tulane's good this year if they weren't good last year.
It felt like they, like you said, missed their window. They had slowly started ticking up, 12 wins, 10 wins, then up to 14, then to 20, then back down to 14 with the older group. I think we might give Hunter a little bit too much credit just from his Georgia State days. So
we might.
Obviously, the famous shot with his son making it, falling off the scooter. I know he did go back to 2 more tournaments. This team, there's not a lot to like. They don't have a lot coming back. They're super young. I think they're going to struggle. I'm with you.
Tulsa, the Golden Hurricane, are up next. Last year, they finished 16-15 overall, 7-11 in the American, which was good for tied for 7th. Tulsa is one of only 3 teams that returns more than 50% of their minutes from last season in the American, so that's positive. Eric Conkle also returns as the head coach, so that's positive. A lot of these teams with new head coaches nowadays. Keaston Willis played 23.5 minutes last season, 12.5 points per game. Isaiah Barnes, who was formerly at Michigan last year in his first full year, playing full time, 29.5 minutes per game, 8 points, 3.5 rebounds per game, with over a steal. Shot at 32% from deep, 45% from the field. Jared Garcia played 22.5 minutes last season, 9.5 points per game, 6 rebounds per game. Matt Reed played 16 minutes a game. Tyshawn Archie played 14.5 minutes a game. Both of those 2 guys are freshmen, so maybe a sophomore leap for them. Josiah McWright is a 6'4" junior who played 15 minutes a game last season. They do bring in 3 transfers. Dwan Odom from Georgia State, who is a graduate senior. He's 6'2" guard. Averaged 4.5 assists last season, 12 points per game, 5 rebounds. Shot at 52% from the field, 43% from 3. He's going to be stud. Braden Carrington, a 6'4" junior guard from Minnesota, transfers in, 21 minutes. This guy had some spurts last season where I was like, oh, he's not a bad player, but he's just kind of blocked by Minnesota last year, unable to see a lot of the floor. The only times why he played 21 minutes a game, I guess, was Minnesota was so nicked up last year, health-wise, at times. And then Justin Amati transfers in from James Madison. He didn't play last season, but 18.5 minutes during his junior season, 5 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, shot at 61.5% from the field. Mac, Tulsa was a little bit surprising last year. What are your thoughts on the Golden Hurricane coming into this season with one of the more experienced squads in the league?
Yeah, so I think that was a nice second year for Eric Conkle. Well, obviously, the first year was miserable, where they never covered a game,
Yeah.
and they just completely got annihilated. But they jump up from 5 wins to 16. They bring back all this production. Could Haggerty be a little bit of addition by subtraction potentially? I know Haggerty's a big name going over to Memphis, but I think that the other guys that are going to step into the roles, step up, play maybe the ball moves a little bit more. I like Tulsa headed into year 3 of the Eric Conkle. He was good at Louisiana Tech year in and year out. Won 20 games every year of his 7-year tenure, except for one. He's a Jim Larinaga guy. I got them in that clump. Of teams right in the middle.
Not sure I have them in the clump, but I don't have them finishing in the basement per se. So I think it's relatively positive. They bring a lot back, and you have to like that. And I do relatively to expectations, I guess, for the Tulsa program. 3 more teams left for us alphabetically here. The UAB Blazers. Blazing under Andy Kennedy, your boy. Real quick, 23-12 last season, 12-6 in conference. They finished 4th. UAB has the 4th most experienced roster in the AAC this season, and they returned 60% of their minutes from last year, which is the most in the AAC. And honestly, a little bit of a tell that the league might not, I guess, I don't know. Either way, this team has really high expectations. Andy Kennedy is your boy. You can lead off. That lead off.
Yeah, what a year. Win the inaugural year in the American. Love me some Andy Kennedy. They play an entertaining brand of basketball. Death taxes, Andy Kennedy winning 20-plus games. 17 years as a head coach. He's won 20-plus, 14 of them. And he coached at Ole Miss. Ole Miss has not been good since Andy Kennedy left. They had 1 year with Kermit Davis where he went to the tournament with all Andy Kennedy's players. So Ole Miss, even Chris Beard, I mean, I have high expectations for Ole Miss this year, but I digress just with the consistency that Andy Kennedy's been able to run a good program. Then he comes back to his alma mater, 22 wins, 27 wins, 29 wins, 23 wins, 2 out of the last 3. Going to the NCAA tournament, the one sandwich in between. They went to the NIT championship and lost to Grant McCaslin in North Texas. So I think that this team is right there to win the league. I love the returning production coming back off an NCAA tournament team. We said they were young last year. It was kind of the year after the year with Jelly in that group. Everybody hyped up that team. They still were good, don't get me wrong. But I think this team is hungry as well, coming off of that success last year.
Yeah, they return a lot. Yaxel Lendeborg, player of the year, preseason player of the year, I should say. Averaged a double-double last season, 14 points, 10.5 rebounds, 2 blocks per game as well, alongside 2 assists. Tremendous player. 6'9" senior, playing in the front court. Butta Johnson also returns, played 31 minutes last season, 11 points, 1.5 assists per game, 36% from deep. Alejandro Vasquez returns after shooting at 39.5%, the 3 ball. Last year, he played 23 minutes, 11 points per game, 3.5 rebounds. They bring in Tyron Moore from Georgia Southern, who put up 17 points per game, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, shot at 40.5% from deep, 47% from the field. He's 5'11", point guard there. Christian Coleman comes back after playing 19.5 minutes last season for the Blazers, 7.5 points, 4.5 rebounds per game, shot at 54.5% from the field. Tony is a 6'2" senior guard, 17.5 minutes last season. Greg Gordon transfers in from Iona, played 25.5 minutes last season, 16 points, 7.5 rebounds, 1.5 steals per game, 1.5 assists per game, shot at 32.5% from 3, 55% from the field. Bradley Azuero comes in from St. Louis. He's a senior 6'9" forward, 22 minutes last season, 12 points, 6 boards. Jabari McGee transfers in from South Plains Junior Community College, 17 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, 4 assists. He's the backup point guard here. This squad's really, really good. I think they're 8 or 9 deep, and they're all seniors or juniors. UAB is a title contender in this conference. That's the first time I've said that for anybody that's keeping track. Anything else you want to add on Blazers here?
They've been second I guess actually last year they were fourth. They've been second every year in Conference USA.
They won the conference tournament last year.
I know. They won the conference tournament. But he's been second every year in the regular season in his first 4 years, between 22 wins and 29. Could this be the one he gets over the hump and he wins the regular season? It looks good. It looks good on paper.
Yeah, I think so. I think UAB is gonna be one of the teams to beat here in the AAC. UTSA, we go from one of the teams to beat to a team that's been beat a lot. 11-21 overall last season, 5-13. Another one of those 5 teams that finished tied for last season. Austin Claunch met with the team. There was no team. Claunch comes in from Alabama. Mac, what do you know?
So he only spent 1 year at Alabama with Nate Oates. They go to the Final Four. But he was at Nichols for 5 years, went 90-60. They won the regular season twice. He finished second another time. And he won 70% of his games in the Southland Conference. I know this is a better league, but I think going to Nate Oates, learning maybe just studying under a new guy just for a year. I know it's just short term. And now taking over this program and bringing some new ideas, I think is only going to benefit him being a head coach. He's only 34. He's from Argentina. It's kind of a remarkable path the more and more I study it. He started as a GA, I believe, with 2013 to 2015. Who was at Clemson? Brownell wasn't there then, was he?
I think so. He's been there for a minute.
Brownell was there. So he did start with Brownell. Yeah. Then he went to Nichols, got the job, was successful, goes to Nate Oates. So one of these guys that I think is going to be an even better head coach second time around. So his team's
play fast. Did he start in 2013 with Clemson?
Yeah.
That was Brownell's third year.
Okay. God damn, Brownell's been there for a while. Yeah, dude, I love this hire. I think he's going to be perfect at UTSA and get these Roadrunners competitive. He started getting Nichols competitive year in and year out, and we've seen what Coach Sadler did there last year, but that was an extension of what Claunch put in place already there.
Yeah, I mean this roster is an entire grab bag, and I'm not on the high end of the grab bag. First name here is Primo Spears, and you might know why I'm not too high on the grab bag. There's a reason why he was available for the grab bag to have. He's a senior now. Gosh, we've been doing this too long. He played 22.5 minutes last year for the Seminoles. They sucked. When was the last time he was on a winning team, Mac?
Man, I don't know.
I don't know.
Never?
I don't think so. 10.5 points per game, 1.5 rebounds, two assists, 1 steal per game. He shot it terribly last season. Tyrion Joseph transfers in from Southern, 20.5 points per game, 3 boards, 1.5 assists, 1.5 steals per game. Shot at 30.5% from 3. Damari Monsanto transfers in from Wake Forest. He only played 12.5 minutes for the Demon Deacs last season. Also from Mississippi State, Jaquan Scott, a 6'8" senior forward who only played 6 minutes last season. Genevius Smith comes in from Buffalo, played 24.5 minutes last year for the Bulls, 8-8 he averaged with just over an assist per game, 37% three-point shooter, 54.5% from the field. Raekwon Horton is a 6'6" senior who played 22 minutes last season, 7 points, 4.5 rebounds for James Madison, shot at 34% from deep, 54% from the floor. Paul Lewis transfers in from Vanderbilt, who played 16 minutes for the Commodores last season. Marcus Millender transfers in from South Alabama, played 28 minutes last season, 9.5 points. He's a 5'11" sophomore guard who shot at 44% from three-point range. Sky Wicks is an Incarnate Word transfer who's a 6'6" redshirt junior who played 27.5 minutes last season, 13.5 points, 6.5 rebounds, 2 assists per game, shot at 31% from the three. And Mo Nije is a 6'11 senior who transfers in from SMU. He only played 3.5 minutes last season. David Herms transfers in from Indian Hills Junior Community College. 6 points per game, 3.5 rebounds. Zach Gonsolin transfers in from TCU, where he was a walk-on. And then Boubacar Njay, brother of Mo Njay, is a freshman. So I'm going to be relatively low on UTSA and Conch in his first year. I've got them in the basement, not last, but in the basement of the AAC. Mac, any other words, thoughts on UTSA before we move on?
I would echo everything we said kind of about Rice with Lanier. It's just a lot of uncertainties, but long term, I like the hire, man.
All right. Wichita State is the last team for us in our preview. The Shockers last season were a little bit below expectations under Paul Mills in year one, in my opinion. They returned 58.5. What'd you say?
They came on late, like down the stretch, the last 2 to 3 weeks, and then the conference turning.
Gotcha. They finished 15-19 overall, 5-13 in conference, which was tied for last in the American. They returned 58.5% of their minutes, which is actually the second most in the AAC. And the Shockers have the most experienced roster here, according to Bart Torvik in the preseason in the AAC. Justin Hill transfers in from Georgia. He's a solid piece. Played 24 minutes for the Bulldogs. He's a 5'11", fifth-year senior. 9.5 points per game, 3 assists. Shot at 33.5% from three. Xavier Bell returns. Played 30 minutes last season. 11.5 points, 3 boards, 2.5 assists. Harlan Beverly is a 6'5" redshirt senior guard who played 30.5 minutes last season. 11 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, 1.5 steals per game. Ronnie DeGray III is a 6'6" senior who played 21 minutes last season, 6 points, 3.5 rebounds, shot at 45.5% from three, 32.5 or 45.5% from the field, 32.5% from three. Quincy Ballard is a 6'11" senior 5 who played 22 minutes last season, 7.5 points, 6 boards per game, shot at 72% from the field. His number wasn't called too often offensively, but Corey Washington transfers in from St. Peter's, a 6'5" junior guard who played 28.5 minutes last season, 16 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, 45.5% from the field. AJ McGinnis comes in from Lipscomb, shot at 39.5% from three. He's a fifth-year senior, 6'3" guard, played 30 minutes last season, 13 points per game, 2.5 rebounds. Bijan Cortez played 19 minutes a game last season. Zane Meeks is a 6'9" graduate senior transferring in from Arizona State, looking for a little bit more playing time this year. Matej, or Matej, I think that's Matej Bosnak, is a Croatian big man coming in through the transfer portal. Giannis Bamba is a Canadian freshman. Zion Pipkin is a 3-star freshman, 6-footer, ranked 208th by On3. And then TJ Williams was ranked 178th by On3, a 3-star, 6'5" freshman wing. Mac, what are your thoughts on Paul Mills' squad in year 2 here at Wichita State?
I like them a lot. I like how old they are. I like how much production they have coming back. And I like Paul Mills as a head coach. I know they struggled in year 1 at times, but I thought that they got better. They finished strong down the stretch. Like I alluded to, they beat Memphis in the conference tournament. They won 4 out of 5 before ultimately UAB bounced them out. So I think they continue that momentum from last year. And I think, dude, I have them in my top 4. I like Wichita.
Wow.
I like Wichita's outlook a lot this year. I think this is going to be a big step for Paul Mills, and I think that they're going to be better defensively. And it just goes back to also, I trust these Scott Drew disciples. I think they're really good coaches.
Yeah, so year 1 in Paul Mills era, actually, Wichita State had top 5 defense in the league, which is quite surprising to me because Mills is much more known for his good offenses and being part of the Scott Drew coaching tree. I'm waiting to see how the offense kind of transpires out of the Summit League a little bit. Last year was not like great relatively to the league. If the Shocks can be a little bit more balanced this year, maybe they play more competitive basketball in February and March. But do you think that you said the defense gets better? They were top 5 last year.
I meant offense. Sorry, did I say defense?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
I was going to ask if the defense is sustainable because, like,
yeah. Sorry, I got my words mixed up. Yeah, defense. Like you said, they were right there, top 100 nationally.
Yeah, I'm questioning whether that's going to stay consistent on their Mills because I think the offense is more capable of being a top 5. I was super surprised that the defense was top 5 last year in the conference.
But that's the Wichita like identity, the brand. Like, so I think that's always going to stay the same. Greg Marshall got that going, and then I think that they're going to be better offensively. I think another year in the system, added some guys in the portal. So yeah, dude, I know some people will say Max A. Smith like made Paul Mills, but Paul Mills also found Max A. Smith. So like I think it goes both ways. I mean,
yeah. So I guess I'm changing my point of view on the team a little bit then, because retention is going to improve the offense. If you think the defense is going to stay up to that kind of caliber,
they're older in retention. I think.
I mean their entire projected starting 5 is all seniors. They've got 9 seniors in the 10-man rotation here coming off the bench. Like they're really old. I'll raise them a little bit from where I had them, but I guess I don't have them 4th. I'm not as high on them as you are, I'll say. But that's the last team for us, alphabetical order here. That's going to bring us to our conference rankings. We're going to go 13 down to 1, like we always do for every conference, and then we're going to also hit on our conference tournament champion prediction, sleeper, and bust. Mac, who do you have 13th?
Tulane, the Green Wave.
Me too. Yeah, I got Tulane 13th as well.
Not a lot to like. At number 12, I got the Owls of Rice.
I have UTSA 12th.
All right, I got them at 11.
I have Rice 11.
Okay, this is when it gets good. Sorry, Colby. I got East Carolina at 10.
I have ECU 10th too.
They got too many question marks. I'm not buying into this. We believe.
Hell no. That's great.
You can sprinkle that fairy dust on everybody else in the chat. I'll pick them every night. All right, at number 9, this is where I think I'm going to have Charlotte. Slight step back.
Okay. I have Tulsa 9th.
At number 8, this is where I have Tulsa. Eric Conkle.
Okay. I have Charlotte 8th.
Okay. All right, so this is where I'm going to put them square in the middle, just because I really don't know where they're at mentally. So I'm going to go with the Bulls of South Florida. If Abdur-Rahim was still coaching, I would have them higher, but I need to see them play and where they're at mentally. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they win the damn thing.
Yeah. I have Wichita State 7.
Okay. Number 6. This is where I got Temple. I had Temple at 6.
I had Temple 6 too.
Yeah, Adam Fisher.
I think that's really good progression for the program this season.
Yep. Got rid of the guys I need to get rid of.
The entire team.
Yeah. Number 5, I got the Owls. FAU. Hoo-hoo.
I got South Florida 5. Go win it.
I hope you're right. Number 4, this is where I got the Shockers. I got the Shockers in Wichita, Paul Mills and company. That all those seniors jump up and get in the top 4.
I got Memphis 4th.
I got Memphis third. I don't know where the fuck to put them. I mean, I almost just put them fifth because I don't like them. But I mean, their roster. I have the power ratings over here, just like in general. On a neutral floor, they're like 6-7 points better than everybody.
I haven't even looked yet.
Computer doesn't mean shit because they can't equate locker room and culture. So
they can't smell a dumpster fire.
Yeah, they can. Like, yes, I know they look pretty on paper, but you can't tell me all those guys are going to blend in again. So third for me on Memphis.
I've got Florida Atlantic third.
Okay. I got the Mean Green at 2. Like I said, man, I love Ross Hodge. I think they make a big jump. Defensively, I like just his track record, JUCO. So I got him at 2. I got my guy Andy Kennedy getting it done. First time at UAB, he wins the regular season title in year number 5. Let's go Blazers.
Yeah, I got North Texas 2 and UAB 1 too. Yep, nice. We got the same top 2.
Oh, it's beautiful.
The media poll. Or actually, let's do tournament champion first. Who do you have winning the conference tournament?
There's no way this thing goes chalk. Sorry, Andy Kennedy. As much as I would love to see him win back-to-back. Maybe I might go a little shocker action. Wichita. All those seniors. Paul Mills already has had some March magic. Wichita wins the conference tourney.
Guards win in March. Give me Temple. If everything...
They went to the final last year.
Yeah. Yep. If everything stays on track, if the train just stays on the tracks, Jamal Mashburn won a conference tournament last year at New Mexico. You pair him with Lynn Gree III at St. Joe's. I think that duo is tremendous. Yep. I think Temple can win the championship game this year in the AAC. Like they went to last year in the championship, just fell just short to UAB. I think Temple's my conference tournament champion. The AAC media poll: 13 Rice, 12 Tulane, 11 UTSA, 10 Tulsa, 9 East Carolina, 8 Charlotte, 7 North Texas, 6 Temple. Wow, we landed, all three of us landed Temple 6th. How about that? Florida Atlantic 5th, Wichita State 4th, South Florida 3rd, Memphis 2nd, UAB 1st. This poll did come out, unfortunately, before the South Florida news. So take that into account.
I think we know our sleeper, North Texas.
Yeah. Yep.
7th? Oh,
that's
get
crazy.
Out of here. Get out of here. This is this is a winning program. They're finishing. Let's go. Part of me wants first now that I know the media pulls out on them. But I love Andy Kennedy too much. It's my guy.
Yeah, I think North Texas is my team too. Yeah, I got them 2nd. They're picked 7th. You're bust.
USF, unfortunately.
You know what's crazy about it? Like I was gonna land lower on Wichita State than I did. They were picked 4th. You had them, 4th? I landed 7th, and I moved them up. So
you had Wichita as the bust.
Wichita State. It's just not a very appealing roster, I guess. And I initially questioned whether the defense would stay the same, and last year the offense wasn't great, and that's what kind of Mills was brought in for. And I'm kind of in the ballpark of let's wait and see Mills do it without a little superstar. So
one left, my friend. One league left. Sorry. Yeah, sorry, I didn't specify that. General.
Yeah, it took me. My gears were turning a little bit before I realized what you said.
Like, what the fuck's this guy saying?
He's like Paul Mills, one left. I was like, oh, conference. Yeah, we got the Atlantic 10 that we're going to preview tomorrow. 15 teams, buckle up, I believe. I believe it's 15 anyway. A10's in a great. They're a great league though. That's a great basketball first conference to finish this thing off with. None better for the college experience than that. We love that. Friday, preseason predictions episode, where we're going to give out Final Four picks, Elite Eight picks, our conference championship futures, our favorite ones at least. We don't play it too much. We don't play too many of those. We don't like to tie up our money for the entire year. Mac's going to unveil his top 25 rankings for the preseason here. I'm going to unveil, or at least attempt to. It takes me a lot of time, but preseason bracketology, I'm gonna try my best to get one out there. And then Sunday night, be there or be square. We don't know a time yet. We're waiting on Colby, but opening night, every game against the spread, every game on the money line, just like every single day of the college basketball experience, college basketball season. We're here every night. Mac, we're almost done. This has been the college basketball experience. If you're looking to follow Mac, by the way, on YouTube, on Twitter or X, Moneyline_Mac for my friend Ryan McIntyre, for myself, Noah Bieniek at NoahB77_. This has been the college basketball experience. You better start thinking about yours, and we out of here.